You're listening to the Gutsy Podcast, where we talk about all things real, raw, and ridiculous about running a business authentically. I'm Laura Wallace, also known as the Laura Aura, lover of all things inspirational, owner of Works Graphic Design, and your host on this journey through entrepreneurship. I'm here to help you get out of your head and back into action as a passionate business rock star. Tune in every Tuesday and Thursday as we fuel your gutsy. Shame, a word that has such dense meaning to it. Things that are often associated with darkness, sadness, things that we have to hide in fear of what other people think or feel. This week on the Gutsy Podcast, I have one of the most incredible women I've ever met. Her name is Amy Taylor, and she's also known as the Shame Eliminator. As a speaker, coach, entrepreneur, and CEO founder of Amy Taylor Inspires, Amy works with women bound by the weight of past shame so that they can rebuild their confidence, emerge from hiding, and tap into their greatness. Amy's all about encouraging women to remove the shoes of shame so that they can stand within their shoes of power and promise. Guys, this is absolutely going to be an incredible episode. Amy, welcome to the Gutsy Podcast.
Yes, Laura, thank you so very much for having me. I am super excited to be here. My very first podcast. And so thank you so very much for having me here today.
Absolutely. This is going to be a great conversation. So shame, tell me, what is shame?
So shame for me is a solid hurt. For me, I walked in shame alone, and it's only because I didn't realize that I was even suffering from shame. I had no idea. Shame to me is when you have so many women walking around, and not just women, there are men that deals with shame as well, but my target audience is women. But shame for me is when you suffer in silence. We have so many women, and I'm going to speak for myself. I suffered in silence for years before I knew that my problem was shame. I hid a lot, and I was in isolation a lot. And again, I didn't realize that it was the shame that caused me to be in isolation and in hiding.
So how did you go about realizing what shame was? Like, what are some signs or symptoms, or how did you even come to knowing that it was actually shame that was holding you back?
So, first where I'll start is shame for me. It began actually at a very young age. I was introduced to shame at the age of 12. Unfortunately, I was molested by my uncle. Of course, when you're at the age of 12, you don't really know that you're dealing with shame. So at that time, I just knew that something was wrong, and I felt wrong. I felt nasty, dirty, but I didn't realize that it was shame. And then again, at the age of 15, I had my first child when I was 15 years old. And that brought on a lot of shame. Before I get too far in it, what I want people to understand is that, so there's self-inflicted shame, where you bring shame on yourself. So for me, at the age of 15, mom and dad was there. I knew about sex, and I knew what you should do and what you should not do. I knew right from wrong. But I made a decision, again, at the age, of 14. The first time I had ever been involved with a young guy. And I got pregnant, and I had my first child at 15. So for me, that brought a lot of shame to not just me, but to my family. The stares, all the disappointing stares from neighbors and things of that sort, the whispering. There was a lot of shame at the age of 15, but I still didn't realize that was shame that I was dealing with. Again, I felt different from other people. And then you have another type of shame where people bring shame to you. And so from being molested from my uncle, shame was brought on to me. So again, that's why I speak about there's two different types of shame. Again, self-inflicted shame, where you do something to cause shame on yourself, or then someone else doing something to you that still brings shame to you.
Wow. And it's such a deep topic, right? So it's something that is stereotyped or has a lot of, I don't know, I just feel like it has a lot of heavy energy around it.
Absolutely.
So I know that you work with women to help overcome these things, and we're definitely going to get to how to do that.
Yes.
But first, to eliminate shame, you have to even understand what it is to begin with.
Absolutely.
So how does one even realize, like, I'm just feeling off or different, or like people are viewing me different, or, oh, this is actually associated with shame?
So for me, how I learned that I was dealing with shame, so not only did I get introduced to shame at the age of 12, and then again at the age of 15, and then again at the age of 37. And I'll get a little more into at 37. Shame just kept knocking at my door. And again, I didn't realize what it was. I just knew that I was in a deep, dark hole. So women, if you're out there, you're listening, if you feel like you're in this deep hole, because I literally felt like I was in a deep hole and I couldn't claw my way out. I could not come out. But it was one day, and speaking with my speaking coach, she and I had a long conversation. And she said, okay, I need you. She said, I know you say that your story is about you being pregnant. She said, but no, I don't feel that. She said, and so when I said, no, I have another truth that I really need to share. And that's when I spoke with her and I shared with her about what I was going through with my husband being incarcerated. Only 3 months after we had gotten married, my husband had gotten incarcerated.
Wow.
So, and I know that I can't be the only woman out here. You're married, you have a healthy marriage, because there is a difference. So you have a healthy marriage, but then your husband makes a decision that costs not only you, but not costs only him, but it costs you, because whatever your husband does, whatever your spouse does, it now affects the both of you, not just one of you. So there was more shame, but it was a different type of shame this time. Why? Because I was much older. I knew that I was like, oh my goodness, my life just literally was pulled from under me. I was married for only 3 months, and now my husband is gone. Again, because of some of the choices that he's made. Won't go into the choices because, you know what, that's his story to share. But I do know that I need to share with women that you cannot wear other people's shame. That's my specialty right there. My specialty is I teach women and I help women not only to remove their shoes of shame and stand in the shoes of power and promise, but to no longer wear other people's shame. And that's what had me bound, because I wore my husband's shame for so many years. So women, stop wearing other people's shame.
Oh, that is intense. I know that there are people writing rapidly right now because it's so easy to absorb and carry other people's shame, and particularly as women,
yes,
we put that shit on a belt and we wear it around like it's a fashion statement.
Yes.
Why do we do that?
Well, I think because sometimes when you have low self-esteem, and so let me talk about that too. Some of the common signs, because you had asked earlier about the common signs, feeling like you want to disappear. And so the reason we wear other people's shame is, again, the unworthiness, not feeling good enough, less than. It's so many different entities that you can say, well, why did I carry it for so long? I've asked myself, why did you wear his shame for so long? Well, for one, I didn't realize. Again, it wasn't until I spoke with the coach and I sat down and I talked with her. And she said, I understand you're in a place of hiding. She said, but it's time for you to stop hiding. She said, but you're dealing with a lot of shame. And I knew that she was right, because I felt like I wanted to disappear. So that's a common sign. If you feel like you're being watched by the world, let's talk about that.
Oh, yes.
I felt like I was being watched by the world. Literally, I would walk out of my door and I just felt like the whole world knew what had just happened. I felt like the world knew that I had only been married for 3 months and now my husband is hauled off to jail. I felt like the whole world knew. When I would go to different events, I felt like when I walk into a room that everybody knew that I was covered in shame. Everybody knew what had happened. But the truth was, nobody knows unless you share that. But because of that, because we feel that everybody can see what we're wearing or what has gone on, we think that everybody can see that we're living in shame, that shame is written all over us. we began to hide, go in isolation. I stopped taking phone calls. I would get people, hiding from family and friends, isolate myself from family and friends. And to be truthful, ladies, when you are going through a lot of shame, you really are hiding from yourself. And that's what I did. I hid from myself. But once you know and learn, okay, I'm dealing with some shame. I'm dealing with not just my shame, but other people's shame. Where do I go from here? And again, it's the signs, knowing what the common signs of. So let's talk. So again, feeling the wanting to disappear, feeling like the world is watching you, isolating yourself from family and friends, and addiction. Addiction is a huge one. Some people go and they fall into addiction because of the shame that has happened, because of what has happened, because they was molested, because maybe, shame, and listen to me, shame is such a broad topic to talk about. And I've had women ask me, well, how do you speak, or why do you speak on shame when it's such a broad topic? Well, for an individual like myself, I feel like I didn't choose shame. Shame chose me. I really feel that way because I feel that God said, I have a bigger assignment for you. And that assignment is to help those women that are wearing that shame to no longer wear the shame. But you stand in your truth, you stand in your power, and you stand in your promise. And so for me, once I realized that, wow, I'm reeking of shame. I'm literally, like, shame has taken over my body. Shame, it's like my identity had been stolen from shame. Let me say that again, because I think that is so crucial, it's so good. Shame has stolen my identity. It's as if, when somebody is like credit card theft and someone steals your credit card, or your social security number. So now your identity has been stolen. When your identity has been stolen, you feel so lost. I was so lost in that word unworthiness. I felt so unworthy. But the truth is, we know we don't have to feel that way when you seek the help. I went to counseling. I didn't walk, I ran to counseling because I said something is not right. I didn't just go to counseling. I told my son, because it's not, when you deal with shame and the type of shame that happened to us after being married for only 3 months, and then the love of your life, the man that you're doing life with. And again, when you're in a healthy marriage, that is so crucial because not everyone is in a healthy marriage. So I don't say, well, you stay in that marriage, you make it work if it's an unhealthy marriage. No, I will never do that. But I can only speak for me and my situation. I knew that this was something that didn't just happen to me. It didn't just happen to my husband, but we had kids. So my son, I said, okay, I could see that there was a shift. Something in his mind wasn't right. Something has shifted because now he's used to us being together as a family. And now a part of the family is gone. A part of the family has been broken. So we went to counseling together because I wanted to make sure that not only do I get help, but I seek help for him as well. So for me, and then depression. Living with shame sent me into such a deep depression. And I never vocally share that. But see, I will never ever allow shame to steal my identity, to steal my truth, to steal my livelihood. Never will I allow shame to steal my livelihood again, because I've set boundaries. And now that I know, okay, these are the signs, these are the symptoms, no. Because don't think that, once you overcome shame, that it won't rear its ugly little head out again. No, it will. It will. Shame will come back out and say, oh no, she's trying to be too great. She's trying to do too, no. So I knew the boundaries and I knew the signs and the symptoms, and that's what I teach other women. Look out for those signs and symptoms, and so that you can be aware. And you can say, nope, I need to regroup. And then, and later in the podcast, I'll teach you about the 5 steps of how to overcome the shame.
Fantastic. That's amazing. Yes to all of these things. One of the things that I think it just completely resonated with, it feels as though everyone on the planet knows what you are thinking, feeling. They know all the details, everything that happened, and now they're judging the shit out of you. The reality is, nobody understands the full story of whatever you're going through.
Yes.
Other than the people that are going through it with you.
Yes. Yes.
So I think that shame puts us in the space of vulnerability.
Absolutely.
And vulnerability is scary. So how do we embrace vulnerability?
So that's great question. So I tell people, first of all, you can't heal what you won't reveal.
Oh, shit.
And so I gotta say, so let me say it again. You can't heal what you won't reveal. Because if you don't reveal it, then how can any healing take place? How can any processes be in place? So I tell people, the sooner you learn to reveal that thing, whatever it is, whether it was the molestation, it may have been bankruptcy. Like again, I said earlier, shame is such a broad topic. It could be, you lost your home, your car was repossessed, you were in a very, you was being, in a physical abusive relationship, with your spouse, whatever that is. Shame is so many different things as shame. But what I know about shame, although shame, like everybody have different experiences with shame. So my shame may be different from your shame. So the experience of shame is different, but the process to go through shame and overcome shame is the same. And that's why I feel that, unfortunately, unfortunately, but fortunately, because I'm able to help so many other women who need the help. So like I said, at age 12, at age 15, I've been through different types of shame. And then, married, I'm blissfully married, happy, and then your husband is gone. So, that I've been through different types of shame. So I feel that, yes, although shame is such a broad spectrum, a broad topic to speak on, we all go through different types of shame, but the process is the same. And that's just, my belief. And so, like I said, if you don't reveal, you can't heal. And that comes in that vulnerability piece.
Yeah.
Vulnerability is nothing ugly. It's not an ugly word. But I feel that when you are vulnerable, that's when I'm at my best self. That's when I can help other people. The more vulnerable I am, the more truthful I am, the more authentic that I am, I can then help that sister or that brother. I can then help them to say, well, listen, I can help you with this process. But if I don't be vulnerable with myself and if I don't share my naked truth, I can't help anybody else. So vulnerability is a crucial piece of overcoming and that process of shame.
So let me ask you this. I love that you can't heal what you don't reveal. So I think that there's sometimes this tug of war between how much of the detail do I express and share, and does everyone need to know that, or does revealing it, is that in a safe space, or is that a public space, or like what is the difference between revealing it and the different levels of that?
So that's a good question. So I think I'll start here where the top 5 steps to overcome shame. And like I said, people always ask me, why do you speak on shame and how it's such a broad topic? But the first step is acknowledgement. So you have to first acknowledge that something happened to you for you to feel shame. And acknowledgement is totally different from step number 2, owning your truth. Because just because you acknowledge something, it doesn't mean you owned your truth. So I can acknowledge it all day long. Well, yes, that happened. But just because you acknowledge doesn't mean that you're taking action towards getting the necessary help that you need. So step 1, then these are just my top, 5 steps to overcoming shame. Acknowledgement. Number 2, owning your truth. Because again, and I have to say it because it's just so good, you can't heal what you won't reveal. But then at owning your truth, it causes you to take action and overcome shame. So I think that is very crucial when you say, okay, you know what, I'm ready to take action. And so I'm going to now have to own my truth. And owning your truth doesn't mean that you have to tell the world. Because here's the thing, what I know to be true, everybody doesn't deserve a front row seat in your life. Not everybody deserves that. So everybody doesn't need to hear what your story is. Everybody doesn't need to hear what your shame is. Yes, everybody, today it's a big thing. Everybody has a story. Share your story. But for me, and this is just for me, I cannot have done this. I could not have been who I am without God. I could not. It's no way. I was not the same woman, Laura, that I am today. This woman that sits here now, the woman that could smile, the woman that could laugh. I mean, the woman that is, my creativity comes out now. Again, I've always been a creative person, but I lost that when I lost my identity because shame had stolen all of that from me. So, but I said to the Lord, I said, God, I need you to tell me what is my next step in life. So for me, I said, God, who should you have me share this with? Not everybody needs to know your truth. It's not meant. So for me, I seek guidance from God. And I say, God, who shall you have me? So when you invited me to be a part of this wonderful, wonderful Gutsy podcast, I said, Amy, it's time for you to be gutsy. And and just speak to other women, get out there, get your voice heard, because I knew that that's where God was pushing me. I don't know where he's pushing other people, but so for me, I'm seeking his guidance, and that's just for me. But again, there are some people, and this is the honest truth, there are some people that have been in my life for years, and some of them have no idea. Now, if they listen to your podcast, they will know now. But I've had people that has been in my life, and they still never knew the whole story. Because again, I move when he tells me to move. And again, and I'm not, trying to be super spiritual or anything like that, but I know where my help comes from. I know that if it was not for God, I'm telling you, I would not be here. I wouldn't be here speaking on this podcast today.
Wow. I love that not everyone gets a front row seat to your life.
No, they don't.
I think sometimes we're either like, well, I either have to hold it all in or I have to stand on top of a building and scream it out on a loudspeaker. Like there's no option in between.
Yes, yeah. And you know what? People need to understand, you do have options. Because for something for example, so I'm going to use my husband, for example. He doesn't feel the need to share his story with everybody. He just doesn't. But for me, I felt the push. I just kept feeling the push. God kept saying, you need to share this. I need other women to be healed. I need other women to be whole. So for me, I knew that getting on different platforms, speaking to other women, whether it's the podcast, whether, I was on a live radio show, regardless of what that is, being on stage, I knew that God was saying, your time is now. And you went through that because I need you to help other women. And so for me, that passion is so crucial. It's so crucial for me because if you was in the place where I was in that darkness, if you was in that place, I don't ever want to see another woman be in that place because that place, it will break you. And some people don't come back from their brokenness. Not everybody comes back from it. So I'm thankful to be here. I take it not for granted. And I'll tell you something else. I'll never forget. And so I'm very transparent here. I have nothing to hide. I'm not shameful to share my story. Because, I'm all about shameless living. That's one of my new brands, shameless living. You are free to just be. And that's why I help women, because I want them to be free to just be. And so I'll never forget, it was this one Saturday morning. I will never forget it. One Saturday morning, I got up out of the bed. I'm sitting on the side of the bed. I would never forget it, Laura. My husband was sound asleep. I get up, and I begin to weep. And I sat on the side of the bed, but I felt like I could not breathe. And this is where I'm still going through the process. I'm still trying to figure out what's going on. I have to overcome all the shame that I'm going through, because when I say that it stole my identity, I mean that with every fiber of my being. So I'm sitting on the edge of the bed, and again, like I said, I begin to weep. But this crying was different, and I'm crying, but I couldn't breathe. And so I said to myself, I said, God, and these were my words. I said, God, I need you to help me to breathe. I need CPR. I need you to give me CPR, God, so that I can breathe. I can no longer breathe. Please help me, Lord. And so it was that cry that I knew he immediately, because sometimes you may ask God for something and everything is not immediate. You don't always get an immediate response. But that morning, he knew that I was in a critical place. I was in a crucial place. And I'm telling you, I felt like I was being suffocated alive. And I don't know if you understand what being suffocated alive, what it feels like. I pray that you don't. But for those women out there who are being suffocated alive, that's who I need to help. That's who I need to reach, because I've been there. It's not a good feeling. However, when you put the right processes in place, when you seek the right help, for me, I went to counseling. Counseling may not be for everybody. You may just need a coach. I don't know what you need, but I'm saying, when you know that you need something, for me, I cried out to the Lord because I knew that's where my strength lies. And so it was crucial for me to share that point. I was being suffocated alive. I couldn't breathe. And every morning I began to get up and I say, Amy, breathe, just breathe. I literally had forgotten how to breathe. So I said, Amy, just breathe. And I knew that day when I got up out that bed, one day I got up and I felt brand new. I went out for a walk and I knew, I said, okay, I'm healing. God is healing me. And I was just very thankful for that.
That's incredible. All that came together, though, because you were willing to own it. You were willing to put action behind it.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
That's such a huge portion of the healing process is not shunning it, not putting it in your mental back closet, not shoving it underneath the bed. Like, we don't talk about that. That was a dark period of my life. Like, put it away, because that's still living in shame.
Yes.
So I love steps 1 and 2 because it's not just acknowledging it, but then it's owning it, putting action behind it. So then what do we do after that?
So then after that, step 3 is forgiveness. And so again, you have to forgive yourself. So I'll use me as an example. Having my first child at 15, I had to forgive myself. I thought that, yes, all those years ago, I had forgiven myself. But no, I really had not. And I didn't know that until I actually went through the process of of healing and getting to know who Amy was. I mean, really knowing who I was. Because truth is, when I said the shame stole my identity, I forgot who Amy was. I no longer knew who I was. So if somebody out there is listening and you feel the same way, I'm telling you, don't let shame steal your identity. You have to seek the help that you need. So, and forgive yourself. That's step number 3 of overcoming, shame. Forgiveness. Not only do you have to forgive yourself, but you have to forgive the perpetrator. You have to forgive the person who brought the hurt to you. I never quite understood, sometimes when you watch TV shows or you listen to different podcasts and you hear other people say, you have to forgive, or I've forgiven so-and-so, I've forgiven A or B. I never quite understood it until I was in the situation myself. I had to forgive because it was the forgiveness that set me free.
Oh, wow.
And so I'm so thankful. So I teach that. I really go in depth because I teach a workshop on overcoming shame as well. But I go into depth with the processes and the different steps of how to overcome. I really dig deep into it. And forgiveness is so, so crucial because forgiveness is a part of that vulnerability. And then also with forgiveness, that self-compassion. You have got to have self-compassion for yourself. I did not know. Sometimes I knew I had self-compassion for my husband and what he had gone through. But what about the self-compassion that I needed for me? And so when I understood that, I began to study that. Because I study this, I really study shame and what it does and how you overcome it and what are the signs and the symptoms and what is the forgiveness piece. And that self-compassion, I now have self-compassion for myself, for what I've done to myself, the things I've taken myself through, for allowing myself to be in the shame for so long. But then it came a time when I said shame, I had to look it in the face. I had to vacate. I said, shame, it's time for me to evict you. So I had to evict shame, just like you would evict someone if they're a tenant in your home and they wreaking havoc in your apartment building or whatever it is. If you are you're renting out your home to someone or a space and they wreaking havoc, and what do? You evict them. Well, it was time to evict shame. So I need y'all who's listening. It's time to evict the shame. Let it go so that you can be a whole person. So that's step number 3, the forgiveness and and the self forgiveness and all of that.
Wow.
Step 4, be selfish. This is so important. You have to be selfish, because when you are fighting to live, I was fighting to live, Laura, that morning sitting on my bed. I'm sitting on my bed asking God to please do CPR on me so that resuscitate me, because I can't breathe. I'm fighting to live. So when you're fighting to live, sometimes you have to be selfish. And I know normally that's a bad word, but I had to be selfish. I said, it's time for me to focus on Amy and who Amy is and who God needs me to help, who God needs me to serve. And so because of that, I had to learn the word no. I know a lot of people talk about that word no, but I mean no. When you're dealing with shame and you're trying to live and really live your life, not just for your family and friends, but for yourself, you have got to learn the word no without being apologetic and without any explanation. No, I can't do that today, because right now I'm working on Amy. Right now I'm working on Laura. Right now I'm working on whatever it is, whoever you are. You have to be selfish at the time that you're going through the process. You have to be selfish. That's step number 4, because you are a priority.
Absolutely, you have to be. And I was literally just on Facebook with a friend earlier that had posted a quote about always putting everyone first and all these things.
Yes.
And I'm like, there's a lot of beauty and merit in that. And I said, but I'm gonna slide this across the table for consideration too. That
yes.
We don't have to put everyone else first. We actually need to put ourselves first.
Yes.
So taking care of ourselves, dressing the way we want to dress. If you feel good by doing your hair up every day, then do that. Just being. Getting massages, taking time out for yourself, being alone for a half hour, 45 minutes every day, whatever it is.
Yes.
It's selfish is such a weird word to me, because it's on one hand it's stereotyped as one way, and on the other way it's a really empowering word.
Absolutely.
So I think I've just equipped myself with coming up with another version of this, but all that being said, that to be selfish simply means that you are willing to put yourself first. Because it's very much like the analogy in the airplane. You have to put your own oxygen mask on first.
Yes,
before
absolutely.
you can help the person next to you.
Yes.
So being selfish, guys, we talk about this all the time. Being selfish is not selfish. It's important. It's important. Necessary.
Yes, that's what I was getting ready to say. It's necessary, depending on what it is. So you have to look at it what it is. I'm not talking about emergency. If there's an emergency, know the two, know the difference, know when to say yes and when to say no. But again, when you're talking about surviving and living, something that I wasn't doing for so many years, listen, I had to get to a place of being selfish, but that meant I also had to sit my family down and say, you guys, this is where I am. I'm dealing with a lot of shame. I'm dealing with a lot of depression. And so for me right now, I don't know how long it may take. Because truth is, your healing may take, there is a different amount of time than my healing may take. So, but I know I had to bring my family in to say, listen, this is what I'm going through. I'm really struggling here. And right now, you may need my help in this area, but I might have to say no, because I have to get to know who Amy is again. I have to live so that I can be able to help others and myself and my family.
I love that pulling your family in and just educating them, because where people tend to freak out is when you start changing your whole life around and they have no idea what's going on.
Yes,
now, can you do that? Absolutely.
Yes.
But the people close to you and just I think that's part of owning it and putting action and and accepting and forgiving yourself is having those conversations. Like, hey, I really just need to focus on me right now.
Absolutely.
And no is a complete sentence. You don't owe anyone an explanation.
Yes.
And they may fully embody it. They may want to know all the things, and you don't have to.
Yes.
You don't have to do what you don't feel compelled to do.
And it is so true. You have to do what's important to survive. Yes. So I believe that. And so in step number 5, abundant living. I think that is so crucial because I want everybody to live an abundant life. For me, I was just existing, not living. I could remember this time so in 2008, I had just gotten married. Like I said earlier, I had just gotten married, had only been married. I got married July 2008, October 2008, my husband become incarcerated. And I can remember dropping my son off to school. For the life of me, I couldn't understand how did I get there? Because I didn't remember the lights, I didn't remember the stop signs, all I knew is I was driving, but that's because I was just existing, I wasn't living. I was tapped out, like I wasn't there mentally. I'm telling you, because the shame will, affect your mental status, your social status, your emotional. You're so emotionally wiped out, worn out when you're living with shame. And spiritually, it could really mess with you, because for someone who maybe you go to church, you're really involved in church. Sometimes if you're living with so deep in shame, you may say, well, you know what? I'm going to stop going to church. But, so again, it's all about abundant living. Because, and with what I mean by that is steps that I say for the abundant living. You reveal the shame, you release the pain, and you restore your soul. When you are really in abundant living, is you reveal the shame, release the pain, restore your soul, so that you can be happy and have joy and inner peace.
Oh, it's incredible. Abundant living to me just feels like this. It's just this glorious space.
Yes.
And so much of what we talk about on the podcast is it's topics and subjects that most people find shame around.
Yes.
Or fear that if they are vulnerable in admitting or owning that truth, that their peers are going to think bad of them. Their parents are going to be disappointed. Their business colleagues are going to snub their nose, or whatever the case is.
Yes.
On this podcast, we throw it all on the table.
Absolutely.
Right? Because here's what I found. Everyone is experiencing some level of it.
Yes.
Silently. So it's an honor for you and I to connect in such a beautiful way, because it's so important to let people know that they're not alone.
Yeah, absolutely.
This darkness that you feel that you are in, which you are in, right?
Yes.
It's not even just a feeling. You are in it.
No, you really are in it.
It's okay to own that, but you're not alone in that darkness.
Yes. And that's good. I'm glad you said it. So that brings me up to a bonus. When I say stop allowing shame to steal, the identity, when I talk about that, because what you can do is you can, and when we talk about living in silence, as far as your shame is concerned, you better yell and tell your girlfriends I don't know who your partners are, I don't know who your friends are, I don't know who your support team is. Yell and say, I need help. I can no longer, because it's when you suffer in silence that it is killing you. Literally killing you. And that's where the depression sets in. So, go to your support team. Again, I don't know what your support team looks like. Yours may look different from mine, whether it's your church family, whether it's you may have biological sisters, or you may be the only child, but you may have girlfriends. I even isolated my girlfriends. I did. Because why? Because I was so ashamed of what was happening or what had taken place. But again, go to your support system. Seek out that counseling if you need to. If you have a coach, seek your coach out. You may have a mentor. So get that support system behind you and say, listen, I really need you to rally around me. I need help. So that's major. That's a bonus tip for me. Just really seek out who your support system is, know who they are, and really go after them and say, listen, I need you to help me, and keep knocking until somebody hears you. Sit down and really listen. So just keep knocking.
That's so important. Keep knocking until somebody answers.
The same way that shame kept knocking at my door. I mean, it just kept knocking, and the same way it kept knocking, I said, you know what? It's time to get help. It's time to get help, because I knew something wasn't right. Something wasn't right. And I knew I was just in a place where I was losing all my power. And I knew I needed help fast.
Well, and there's such a pivotal point where you choose to stay in that darkness, or you choose to get fed up and do something.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
If you don't want to stay in there, it's not easy, right? Not. Dealing and facing that stuff is not easy, but it's 100% obtainable.
It is so obtainable, and that's why I have this program. It's called 30 for 30, and so what it is it's where I have a 30-minute discovery call just for women who. They say, okay, well, I may not have a strong support system like you may have had, but I would love to maybe purchase your 30 for 30 packet where you can talk to me, or just so I can kind of discover what's happening. That has been successful. I've had clients with, through that. So I really love it. That's a kind of a way to open a door when people sign up with me, for the 30 for 30. Just so, because sometimes you'll find that when you have been silent for so long, it's just taking the moment to have someone to listen, really listen to your inner problems, your inner issues, what's really bothering you. Because do you know that sometimes you don't realize, and you don't know what you don't know, but you may not know. You're dealing with something, but you may not know that it's shame that you're dealing with. So that's where those discovery calls, come in, where I'm able to help women. I listen to them, I let them talk, I let them get it out, and then, and we take it from there. But it is just so crucial, to talk to someone sometimes. I really love
that, even if they don't feel like they have someone immediately in their life.
Absolutely.
Guess what? Now they have you.
Oh, yes.
So I'm sure that there are a ton of people wondering, how do I find Amy? How do I get her in my life? So where can our listeners find you? What are some next steps? I know you mentioned the 30 for 30. So
yes.
Where do we send people to find you?
I'm going to be, hosting another event soon. That's still in the works. Last year I did, it was called the Release Event, RELEASE, the Release Event, where, women came, and it was very intimate. I love to host intimate events because it allows women to be vulnerable, which we talked about earlier, and it's a safe space for people. You want to be able, because you mentioned earlier about where can you share, if you don't want to share your story of shame with other people or everyone, when do you know when it's right to share? Find those intimate events where it's a safe space. Know that it's a safe space, and that's what I do. I host small intimate events where you can share your shame in a safe space where you will not be judged. But you will be given, a hand up, just the help you need. You can also find me on Instagram, it's at Amy T Inspires across all social media platforms. My website, www.amytaylorinspires.com. And then Laura, I'm sure that we'll be connecting and doing some wonderful things for some ladies out here.
Oh, absolutely. Together. Yeah, absolutely. Guys, we put all of those links in the show notes, so definitely connect with Amy. Amy, the last question I want to ask you today is, how does Gutsy tie into overcoming shame?
Honestly, for me, taking the first step to come here and accept. For me, I said yes. I said yes to myself today to come here, share my story. I don't know how many people this will touch, but I said yes because I know that I needed to get gutsy. So today I was gutsy by saying yes to come here and speak to your community of people who possibly may be dealing with shame or used to have dealt with shame in the past but still may need some help. And so for me, gutsy is taking the first step to say yes to being a part of your community and now a part of your family.
Oh, amazing. I can't thank you enough. I mean, I feel like I could
You're
talk to
so
you for the
welcome.
next 3 hours.
Yes.
Most certainly, stay tuned for
Yes.
part 2, 10, 30. This woman and I are going to stay tuned for world domination.
Yes,
This has
yes.
just been incredible. I appreciate your energy.
Yes.
I appreciate your vulnerability.
Thank you so
and
very
there are a
much.
lot of women in the world that are really lucky to have you.
Wow, thank you so very much. And you know what, before we end, I will say to you also, I do have a free lead magnet. I will share that information with you. So for anyone who wants to join my email list, they can get that, free, lead magnet to kind of help them with the shame as well.
Perfect. Absolutely. Guys, we'll make sure that that's in the show notes too. That's an incredible offer. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Wow. So much to ponder. I'm sure lots of you are like sitting back in your chairs right now, writing vigorously and just thinking, oh my gosh, this is just another level. Make sure you please follow up and follow through with Amy. Follow her on Facebook and Instagram and her website and check out more of what she has. And you know what? There's some gutsy stuff that's about to happen in your life. And I hope that something resonated with you today to help you take action to overcoming shame. Join me for this Thursday's Power Back as we take this even further in talking about putting our inner thoughts on speakers. I'm saying if I put the things that you say to yourself on a loudspeaker, how would you feel? Would you feel the same way as you do when you say it internally? And would you say those things to your best friend? Until then, follow the Gutsy Podcast on Facebook and Instagram. And for more business insights, follow me personally on Instagram at @LauraOra. See you next time.